about the movie Thursday Till Sunday, the parents in the film are about to separate. And the situation is seen through the eyes of a 10-year-old girl. Why?
At the beginning of the project, I imagined this film through the eyes of the kids. I didn't want to make like a story about a separation. It's more like to get close to the kids or how the kids realize things. So I was writing the script thinking in this distance, in this way kids realize. And it was my goal was to capture childhood and formally and also from the script. So yes, I think kids has like a particular way to see the things, less without prejudice and more direct, also more connected with real fears. So
and almost everything in the film is filmed inside the car, because the family is on a road trip, and everything almost is filmed inside a moving car. Yes. What atmosphere did you want to convey through that way of filming?
I think the starting point of the project of the film was all these things that only happened in the confinement, and I remember these long trips in Chile, because Chile is so long. We were always in the car and not arriving anywhere. And so it was like a kind of typical memory of my childhood. And I wanted to, in a way, relate this point of view of the car with the point of view of the kids, because it's a fragmented space. And so everything is is seen through something, like the windows or the shot of the car. Right. And then the kids are also in this position of the back seat of the car, seeing just fragments or with certain distance. So it was a dialogue between these ideas.
It's been 40 years since the military coup of Pinochet, and this festival has this year decided to have a focus on Chile and Chilean film. Are there any characteristics of films from Chile? Like, for instance, in Sweden, we usually say that Swedish film is very social realistic. How is Chilean film, or can you?
I had the feeling that after the military time in Chile, now that we're in a democracy, we're starting to come back to the inside the houses. Now there's not like the goal to register something in the street. It's not something that political. I don't know. The reality is not there, and it's more like inside the filmmakers. So in this moment, the Chilean films are very explosive. Like it's like there is an explosion of a lot of new productions, because also we have this fund which is very supportive, like a public fund. And so I can see that there is not really like something in common of all these new films. I like that there is a lot of variety. And yes, I could say that it's more like personal and more urgent and more little.
Angela, you're currently working on a documentary about the coup in Chile. What can you tell us about it?
I'm working on an animated documentary, and it's based on real stories that I made interviews from both Chileans who have been living here in Sweden and also Chileans in Chile. And it started as a way to relate or to understand what it meant for my parents to kind of leave their country, and where did I come from, because I was born and raised in Sweden. So for me, this was my reality, but at the same time, it was connected to something else that I didn't know. So, yeah.
And as you said, a large part of it is animated. Why?
Because when I started to make the interview, first, people didn't want to talk. Like, they would like to talk to me, but off the camera. They didn't want to be recorded, or they didn't want to be like compromiso, in compromise, or like they didn't want to be engaged that, oh, if I tell you the story, this will come out. You know, they couldn't stand for their own opinion. So it was like, yeah, everyone said no. And after a while, I started to think, well, then maybe I just have to record the sound and use it somehow. So yeah, but at the same time, there's a contradictory. Some people, they really want to face like or be in the documentary with their faces and with their name, and some people don't. So
Yeah. You were just saying that films in Chile used to be more political, and now they're becoming more personal and a
Or
greater mix.
yeah, or political also in another way, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's always the cinema is politic. If it's for me to tell a story, to choose a point of view, even if it's about something in the middle of the nature, it could be political. I mean, it's a way to see life that you are doing, that you're putting in public. So for me, still political.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know you, because you had like another reality outside Chile, but my generation was very unpolitical. I was after Pinochet, nobody like was talking about politics. And now there's like a new generation of these students that are fighting for have like a free education in Chile. So it's starting to be more this new tension. But I was like in an island of unpolitical, all the people doesn't wanted to talk about it. So for me, it's not natural to talk a story about Pinochet. I don't feel attached, and it's not something urgent for me. So I think I was looking for more like stories that are close to me and has to do with how to capture, how cinema works as a way to capture something that is living, like childhood, or like real feelings in childhood.
What are your feelings about? Because your film is about the. Is there like
no, I can really see that it was not like an urge for your generation to talk about it, because it was totally like 17 years of dictatorship, you know. So and in this time you didn't have any culture, like everything was cutted in a way. So I think now it's the time that people can talk about it in a way. And this was what I felt when I was interviewing people, that they wanted to talk, but they were also very afraid of talking in a way, even if it was just, you know, their testimony. They were they never talked about it. Like, it's 40 years ago, but they never even talked about it to their kids, because the whole dilemma of people being accused of being participated or not, you know. So but for me it feels very important to
why
to talk about it. No, because I think it's a generation that we didn't talk about it either, you know. My generation is born in Sweden, and still we have no we can't relate to it in a way. So we have to like create that relationship, create that memory, to be able to deal with your past. So
this trend that that the Chilean filmmaking is moving more and more away from the military coup. Do you think that's a positive or a negative trend?
I think both, but I think also there's now a new trend of trying to open up in Chile, like this film No.
What's that? Tell us about it.
It's a Chilean film that is on the festival. That it's about this time where Pinochet was elected. No was no, would or yes, should he be re-elected? So I think it's also that they can start to talk about it. I don't know. I'm not in Chile, but my feeling when I was there making interview was that people still, are trying to portray it and talk about it also, but not only.
Yeah, maybe now there is another distance to talk about it. So there is also not only non-political films. There are also political films like Dog Flesh, which is in competition here, which is another generation talking about this period, about this guy who was a torturer and is now living like normal life in Chile. So there is another dimension, maybe a little bit detached of have been living this period, which is also interesting to find. Like
Sweden has actually the third largest Chilean population outside of Chile. It's amazing. It's after the USA and Argentina. And yet we haven't seen that many films from any maybe depictions of the political situation in Chile from a Swedish, from the Swedish Chileans in Sweden. What's your opinion? What do you think about that? Why is that?
Yeah, I think it's because, I mean, the first generation who came here, they had to deal with the integration and assimilating to a new country, and yeah, I mean, they came from this kind of trauma or war state, you know, so they couldn't deal with it. And then it's like my generation, we who are born here, you know, and yeah, I think it's because it hasn't been able. If you can't formulate something, then you can't deal with it either. So in Sweden, I think before they have been doing documentaries, but it's mostly been from one perspective, like from the left perspective, accusing the right, and for me, I'm more interested in doing something that is from both perspectives. I'm interested in like the victims, but also in the perpetrators, förövare, and yeah, and to try to understand what happened. You know, how can you really, I don't know, betray your neighbors? How can you kill a family member, or how could you escape from that and start a new life in Sweden? Like these questions, haven't been raised in a way.
And you've been filming in both Sweden and Chile. How would you compare the conditions of filmmaking in the countries?
I think Chile had great production like level when I was there. I was really impressed by the the production and how the level of the narrative, but also like when I worked with Chilean photographers or sound people, they were really professional. So
I think this film fund that we have changed a lot. The Fondo Audiovisual, the Chilean Film Fund, which is good and of course make the industry grow very fast, but at the same time it's becoming very competitive because we have the same amount of money since maybe 10 years, and now there are more and more filmmakers, so it's still not enough, but I think it was a big change. And I wanted to say that I think always you can see if there is like an urgency of someone to talk about that is connected with your life, I think you can reflect this in the film. So I think it's very good that this new generation of people that was related in another way with the Chilean history is talking from another perspective, because it's also a very like typical subject to talk about Pinochet and all this political thing. It's how Chilean films are well known in Europe and the US, but I think that must be like more genuine and like this connected with your own like feelings. Like you can feel that's something necessary for you, and I think it will be reflected in the film.